Well, good morning. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. Is that right this time? Do we have any new faces? I was like, welcome new faces.
We've got quite a few.
Quite a few new faces. Say that 5 times fast. Well, again, welcome to 1 Million Cups. So, if you haven't been before, the reason it is called 1 Million Cups is because across the nation right now there are over 160 different chapters. I'm finding the new faces, so if I'm making eye contact with you, I have figured out who you are now. There are, we hope, over at least 1 million people having cups of coffee right now, helping fellow entrepreneurs kind of succeed in their business. It was started by the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City. I said St. Louis before, so I'm learning here. So I'm one of the organizers here. My name is Austin, and then we have these other organizers that now have pictures. We have been working on that for months, so you may see some of us walking around. Lo, my face is a little distorted there. Look a little wide. I can't do what I want to do. Don't heckle me up here, Kavanaugh. My goodness gracious. Here's some of our sponsors. I'll save you from reading the list, but I will point out Granny Schaefer's because there is coffee over there. Please drink it all, so Lowell doesn't have to bring any back. And I believe the next slide will be our sponsor, who is Abigail Hobbs. Still waiting on that to come up. Okay, we're gonna get nothing. Abigail Hobbs with Freedom for the Taking. They're a nonprofit.
Give me that here. I gotta switch over here.
All right, Lowell's gonna switch. You have that on. You have Britney Spears mic.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
How are you?
Great.
Good. Thanks for coming this morning. I have not had 1 million cups of coffee, I promise, but if I'm talking too fast, it's just because I'm a little nervous. All right. Oh, that is not my logo. If it was, I would be richer. Right?
It's thinking, sorry.
It's thinking. It's okay. Okay, well, I'll just give you a couple details real quick. I started a nonprofit organization just last October, so it's really new. I'm very, very excited. It's a nonprofit. It is called Freedom for the Taking. And the reason I came up with that name, I think you'll understand as you hear my story today. But I realized that freedom is there for all of us. It's always been there. We just have to take it. Freedom does not come walking up, hey, I'm here to make your life great. We have to take it. We have to fight for it. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to take our freedom. Do you need a flash drive? Oh, good.
Hold that thought. I'll have intermission, that way you don't get off track. No time limits, you're not, yeah.
Freedom for the freezing. We can all get do some line dancing for a second. Who likes line dancing? Anybody ever done line dancing?
Yes, I'm sure.
I do line dancing on the side. It is so much fun. You don't have to be good at it. You just have to have fun. That's the only way. Okay, good.
Just a little tidbit.
There you go.
We did a head count. We've got 30 people
Now we're
in the
up to
house.
date.
First time in over a year, we've got 30 here.
All right. Woo! Yay. That's mine. Okay. Cool. Let's see if this works. So, that's me. This is our mission for my nonprofit, is to educate and inspire individuals who struggle to find their value by providing enriching opportunities that will empower them to create vibrant and healthy lives. Now that sounds like, that's kind of fairy tale-ish, okay? It's not really that fairy tale-ish because I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and what this came from. All right, so this is me and my family. I am proudly bisexual. I am in a non-monogamous relationship with my husband Nate, my partner Jennifer, and my 3 amazing kids that are not so small anymore. My son will be graduating high school next month, and I have my assistant Ava in the front row with me today. And we have a farm in Seneca. I have horses. I love horses. So that's really what my story came out of. Anyways, you might see this. This is not your typical looking family. You might be like, oh wow, but I've not always been this free, and I've not always been this brave. And that's what I want to share with you today. A little bit about me. So I grew up in a religious cult. I was raised there. My parents took us there when I was 9 years old. I was there for 26 years. I'm going to show you some pictures today, and I don't have a lot of time. I mean, who can tell their story in 6 to 8 minutes? So I'm just going to show you some pictures, and I think you can imagine a little bit. That is me in the middle. I was 14 years old. I was in West Tennessee. We made all our own clothing. We wore head coverings. We lived in buses. We lived in RVs. We lived in tents. We lived in storage cans. Anything that we could basically get in. This is just a random picture, just to kind of show you this is some young men. This was a rite of passage that they were doing. Again, made all their own clothing. These are some of the men, some of the leaders. We had tribes. The men wore mantles. They had long hair. We looked very scary. This is the leader that started it all, and his wife. This is me in the middle in a yellow dress. That was when I was 18 years old. We put all our own festivals. Everybody worked within the cult. We didn't have TVs. We didn't even listen to music outside of, we wrote all our own music. So, just a little taste of it. That is me and my husband Nate, my fiance at the time, was 21 years old there. And I just want to pause for a minute because when people would come to visit, they would walk around what was a 100-acre cow pasture we turned into a village. And they would be like, this is amazing. All these families live in community. It looks beautiful. They look happy. You can see we did a lot of events and fun things. I was part of a dance troupe. Here's the thing. The outside can look all pretty, but what's really going on inside was some very harmful, toxic things that were being hidden in the name of religion, in the name of God. Okay, so we were brainwashed and we didn't even know it. When I got married there, I had all 3 of my children there. We had home births because doctors were bad, therapists were bad, anything outside of what we had was bad. If you weren't in our group, you were going to hell. That's what we were told. So eventually I had all 3 of my kids, and I just really, really, really wanted adventure. I wanted to do something different. I had been here my whole life. My husband and I finally got brave enough to move to Colorado, and in that move, everybody didn't hate us, and it didn't turn into this huge revaler situation, which that happened a lot, because we were basically going to take this life that we grew up in and share it with the world. You know, like change the world. We were the real deal, right? So we were just kind of take this life and go spread it to the world. That was our goal. In the midst of that, okay, I'm back up a second. I was a horse trainer and a horsemanship instructor in the cult. I taught hundreds of the kids there. We put on horse shows. So I grew up with horses my whole life. I was very good at it. I loved it. Moved to Colorado and realized you could become a therapeutic riding instructor and get certified in it, work with special needs. I loved that. So I took a year and I worked really hard, got my certification, started working at different barns in Colorado. Loved it so much, but I really wanted to do it on my own farm, you know. So 3 years of Colorado, and the house went up for sale, and it was almost $500,000. We couldn't afford it. So we found this little property, this little tucked away, beautiful 20 acres in Southwest Missouri, and we moved here. I opened my own business as a therapeutic riding instructor called LOL Haven Horsemanship Adventures. And as you can see, we did lots of fun things, and I loved it. I loved it so much. But the 3 years that I had that business, our lives turned upside down. 2 things happened. We found out about some really horrible trauma that had happened within my own family because of the cult we grew up in, and had been hidden for years. It came out, and our world.
Take your time, Mom.
You can't imagine realizing that everything you've ever known wasn't true. And not only that, but when your own family is hurting and you didn't even know what was happening, what the fuck? So it was like a bomb came and just obliterated everything. My husband and I were like, oh my God, we don't even know who we are. We don't know what we believe. Everything we've always known is not true. What the hell? We've been so brainwashed. We can't even think for ourselves. We've been living our whole life thinking we were in freedom. And my son said it the best. He said, Mom, it's like we were told all along, you're walking in the light, you're walking in the light. And when somebody comes in and flicks the light on, and you're like, damn. We were in absolute darkness. So those 3 years, we worked really hard. We started getting counseling for all of our family, trying to figure out who we are and what kind of life we wanted to build. And we lost a lot in making our choices for freedom. I'm from a family of 9. My husband's from a family of 8. I was homeschooled. He was homeschooled. Most of my family doesn't talk to me anymore, and I don't talk to them. Mostly because I have chosen not to, though, because they're unsafe. And a lot of them still, if they're not, are still living. 2 sisters still live in that cult. They still have the same mindset, and that brought so much trauma to my family. So I say all that to say freedom isn't easy and it's not simple, but it's worth it, because now I get to live a life that I choose to live and get to fully be myself in the expression that is fully me, and not have to grovel to everybody else. Because I'm telling you, we groveled to those leaders every day, and it was never good enough. Also, within those 3 years of trying to write our lives, I had 2 therapeutic horses. This is Princeton, and this is Shiloh. They both died. Lost both horses during that, and they were my horses for my business. And you either have to have 10 years to train a horse to get them that good and safe, or you have to have $20,000. Because you don't get a horse to put people on, especially special needs, that easy. And those aren't cheap. So I just want, God, for one thing, I had this horse for 25 years, you guys. She raised me, and she raised all my kids. So that just took a blow on my family. And we just took a step back. Where do we go now? What do we do now? And through all of that, rebuilding our life, freedom for the taking was born. Because I love people, I love working with people, and this gave me a new passion that, you know what, maybe you didn't grow up in a cult. Maybe you didn't, probably not a lot of people do. But we still live in a society where we are under these expectations and this rat race and this, we have to be exhausted and these feelings of never being good enough and lack of self-value. And all of my students, I saw depression and anxiety. It was rampant, and the moms are exhausted. And I said, this is a mess. Like, we have choices. I didn't know that my whole life. I didn't know I had choices to make my life how I wanted it to be. And now I know, and I want to share that with everybody. So Freedom for the Taking is all about empowering people to create lives they love. I've talked to so many people, and they're like, no, I'm just doing this because it's what I'm doing, and it's what I'm good at. And they're just unhappy. You don't have to live unhappy. You don't have to do what everyone expects you to do or what looks like the right thing. You get to choose what is honoring to you, and if nobody else likes it, that's okay. It's your life. It's your lungs, right? It's your breath. So, I feel like these are some of the things that Freedom for the Taking, the problems it solves, is depression, loneliness, lack of self-worth. LOL Haven, I use my farm as a way to provide a safe haven for students and people to come to get hands-on activity for building confidence and self-esteem and teamwork and all sorts of cool stuff. But it's not limited to my farm. That's the cool thing, because my horse business was limited to my horses. Now I feel like this opens up the horizons. I can travel, I can go I've done a class for building bridges, I can go talk to people, I can share my story because it's important. I feel like everybody needs to know you don't have to live a life half dead. Just surviving this craziness, you can thrive. Okay, that's so long. How can you help? This is new for me. As far as the nonprofit part of it's new for me. I am very good with people and horses and like hands-on, but there's so much stuff that overwhelms me. How do I find sponsors and funding? Because I specifically went nonprofit because I said, I don't want this to be just for people that can afford it. That's not okay. I didn't grow up with hardly any money. I mean, we went dumpster diving for a year of our life when we lived in a house with 100 people. I know how it is to be that way. I want to be able to to offer this to anybody and everybody. So I want, if I go nonprofit, maybe people that do have money can help support me to do group sessions for marginalized group or people that don't have the financial resources. Yeah, and then the last thing here, I'm sure you probably read all this, but if I offered a class on my farm, I thought about doing things for businesses because I think it could be really fun. I really specialize in fun. And if I did something for your team on my farm, what would be most valuable for them to learn? And that's it. Thank you very much. Yes. Best avenues. What are the best avenues to make freedom for the taking known? How can I connect with those who need freedom for the taking? How do I find sponsors and funding to offer sessions to those without financial resources? How help to get the word out about a possible fundraiser? Speaking opportunities, and if I offered a class on my farm.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I have a question, Abigail. What kind of classes and workshops and things are you offering now? What kinds of things do you, thank you. What kinds of things do you do on the farm now? What kinds of classes and workshops are you doing?
Well, it's kind of, what will I do? I haven't done a lot yet. So I've got flyers over here if anyone wants to grab a flyer. But I offer several different things. So like a 6-week session would be for like helping build confidence and group and teamwork activities. And then there's like a 2-hour class for marginalized groups of basically really focusing on building self-value. That to me I think is a huge thing because we won't make choices to build a life we love if we don't think we're valuable enough. And man, do humans struggle with that. It's hard. So that I feel like every one of the things I talk about really comes out of learning how to discover and value yourself. I offer classes, I'm trying to think of all the things. Oh, I offer a mom's day camp for exhausted and tired moms to come to my place and have like 3 hours of activities, and we did art in the corral and all sorts of really cool stuff. I got this Trek to Connect, a trail around my property, and horses are always mixed in with all of this. And let's see, play dates, because it's, for some silly reason we're allowed to play when we're kids, but we're not when we're adults. But if you've ever read this book by Dr. Stuart Brown, it's amazing, The Art of Play. He says, the opposite, I always get this wrong, the opposite of play, if I asked you what the opposite of play was, what would you answer? Work. He says, he studied play in humans and the brain. The opposite of play is depression. And I think we have a lot of that in our world. So it's teaching people how to play again. Let me see, did I hit them all? Public speaking. I think I have a unique story, kind of gets people's attention, but it also, I think everybody can relate to it in some way or another. There's a 5 essential building blocks class that I did when I did at Building Bridges, which was awesome because they're rebuilding their lives. So I broke down what I did in my life into 5 steps, where to start, and then how to start rebuilding everything to get to learning about boundaries, and then creating and discovering, experimenting who you are and what you want your life to look like.
Thank you for speaking today. And I do have one more question. You love horses, that's very, very clear, but tell me the origin of the zebra.
Oh, thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Amazing. I can't believe I forgot about my zebra. Okay, I love zebras, and here's why. As a horse person, I know all about horses. Horses, usually when they kick with one back leg, unless they really, really mean it and they're upset and they gotta say like, okay, I mean it. And they'll kick with 2 back legs. Also, most everybody rides horses. How many people do you see riding zebras around here? There's a reason people don't ride zebras. You can't domesticate them. And zebras never kick with 1 leg. Never. They kick with 2. They can decapitate a lion's head. They've been known to kick a lion's head right off. They are serious, they mean business, and you will not tame them. That's why this is a zebra. Because I won't be tamed anymore. I have been manipulated and controlled and brainwashed my whole life. No more.
So, question for you over here. Congratulations on you finding yourself and your freedom. I totally appreciate your transparency and your authenticity. That means a lot in front of this group. Couple questions. One, have you heard of the Alliance of Southwest Missouri?
Yes, my partner works for it.
Oh, perfect. So you've got that resource. And then the other thing is, through the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce, we have several work groups and committees that integrate into the community. One of them is equity, diversity, and inclusion, of which I'm the liaison for. We are rolling out a operational plan for the next 12 to 24 months. So we're looking for programs that we can dovetail into that. So I want to offer that to you for us to sit down and visit about that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100% interested in that.
I have a comment. Thank you for sharing your story, but you could also get grants, especially if you work with troubled teens and youth, so there would be a lot of grants available to you.
Yes, I would love to. It's the thing of like digging through a huge pile of horse manure, like I don't know where. I started a little bit and I got so overwhelmed and like, oh God, I don't know where, like you have so much time and energy, so maybe like, which ones do I put my time and energy into? Because there was just a lot. I saw there's lots, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I'm blown away. You are like, congratulations on, everything that you've done. You're very inspiring. You like picked me up today. I was feeling a little bit down and I was like tired, and you're very, very inspiring. Why am I getting emotional? Two things. Maybe three. One thing is, I definitely want to talk to you because, and I know Lori, like with Chambers, we hold workshops, and I would love to have you come speak to Chamber members with your. I think you could inspire a lot of people. I personally think when it comes to sponsorships and funding, I think going into maybe some like that team building in that corporate world, I think once I'm positive enough that I feel like if you go into a business and you hold a workshop for them, like a team building thing, I think it would be, they're gonna see the value behind that, and I think that they will wanna pass that on, and so that would be a really, I feel like a very easy but positive way to then give me some feedback, write a review, but then would you be interested in becoming a sponsor so that I can, give it to do a talk for free at a nonprofit organization, or for the groups that you're really like low income or people that are struggling, that are building their life, instead of, because then they already know you, they've experienced it, and help you sort of pass that along.
Awesome. Okay.
The second thing, I'm just curious, it says on your flyers that you also have a podcast and a blog.
I do.
Can you explain, so do you talk a little bit about on those, like, just like what you just did, or are there specific subjects?
Well, I started my blog and my podcast before this, so I've probably been doing that for closer to a year. The blog was really in like, I knew I had to do something, and I wanted to share my story, and I didn't know how, so that's how the podcast started. It's called Coffee in the Corral. It has, I think, 11 episodes are my story, so it goes into a lot of detail, and there's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of just warning. It's not an easy listen. So I tell my story in there, and then I just show up every week. I do it at my horse corral, and I just talk about like what I've been learning that week. So it's not really specifically targeted to like freedom for the taking as much as it's a very personal part of me, but I'm sharing it with the world because I think it's valuable. So, and then my blogging, that started, it's called Bike to Type, and so I bike into town every week, and then I blog, and that's been my healing journey. So it's just like, you'll see on like the front page, I'm like, this is just shit honesty. If you can't handle that, you probably don't want to read this. And so it's not a pretty, glorified thing. It's just the raw struggles of healing from the pain that I've gone through and losing family members and stuff like that. So that's what the blog is about. So I feel like for me, the important part of Freedom for the Taking is that it's me. It's really my experience, and I don't want to present to people and say, oh, I don't have a college degree. I don't have all these numbers behind my name, but I do want people to know that I'm very genuine, I'm very vulnerable, and if you can, like, I don't want to hide, I don't want to be in my business and show up as this, and then go home to this, like, so I wanted kind of it all to be the same thing, like, this is me, this is the transparency. I feel like that's what I connect to, and that's what helps me when people are transparent. So that's why I kind of put that in my stuff. Like, if you're interested to learn more about me as a person, here's these things you can go check out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Good presentation. Question. So I went and looked at your website, and you talk about the classes and all that, and there's fees and stuff on there. So how is that gonna transition with the nonprofit and the fees and, like I said, how are you gonna work all that?
I honestly don't know.
Oh.
Honestly don't know. Yeah, that's kind of still in the working. I couldn't put just free on everything because,
Right.
obviously we have to get, but, so that's kind of my thinking is maybe what's your name? Kavanaugh. What a pretty name. Like she was talking about, possibly, and I think it was Lauren, from Athena, talked to me last week, and she mentioned kind of the same thing of going into a business, and then possibly, even if businesses found this valuable, I could use that money to be able to, what they'll pay for will cover marginalized groups and the other classes like that.
Wonderful story. One thing I'd recommend is maybe getting with some colleges and student activities and organizations, and even I used to work for Trio. We were always looking for different presenters for, inspiring, helping. So that would be another way that you can do some speaking events. And
Okay.
I have some contacts, depending on how far you want to travel, because I've worked kind of for different colleges, probably in the 4-hour radius mark. So if that's something that you're interested in, I think that would be a great opportunity to get with some of our younger generations to help them before they get to our age.
Yes, right. You're 40 going, what? Who am I?
I'm in love with you and your story, I just have to say. So my first question is, what do you actually define as marginalized? You've used that word several times, and I've actually heard it used by different people to cover different types of people. So what all are you looking for in that?
So, it's hard to know the right verbiage these days to use. So there's kind of a wide range, but teens at risk, let me think here, LGBTQ community, people of color, basically low income. So basically, any of those groups that I feel like they're the ones that would really truly be in a space in life that would be like, yes, pick me, I want to do that, I need that in my life, but may not have the resources for it. Does that make sense?
I guess in a way I was asking on a kind of a personal level. I've met a number of young adults that are, especially after COVID, dealing with social anxiety. And especially those that are on the spectrum, it's hit really hard, personal experience there. And I think that if we could find a way to get some of those, right now I don't know how though, because they're all shut in their houses, at least mine is. So trying to get them to come to you to do something might be our challenge, but I would love to see something for those. They could be productive members of society, they just are so scared to do it.
Yes, and I've had students like that had, were so filled with anxiety. They couldn't go in public, they didn't want to go grocery shopping. So I've worked with those, and I absolutely think it is a huge need I could definitely do a class like that specifically for those people that struggle in group situations, they struggle in public, they struggle with communication. We can do all sorts of fun activities that I feel like would help them, which was always my goal. How do I help give people tools to take home to make their life better at home?
Absolutely.
So we just gotta figure out how to do it.
Right? And
I'm down for it.
for that, do you have a board of directors? Do you need anybody else helping?
I have a very small board at the moment because we're very small, but I will take names to keep track of that.
So good morning, and yes, love your story. I think part of it is teaching people to do what you're doing, which is to live freely and through, like your story play will help a lot of people as well. But so I'm the director of a program down in Neosho where I work with high school students, juniors and seniors, trying to help them transition out of high school and into career pathways. And exactly what you're trying to infuse in them, it's amazing no matter what field they're studying, so whether it's business, healthcare, or teacher education, the minute you touch on the topic of psychology or depression, they all show signs that they're dealing with it. So having you as somebody or a resource that we might be able to use to help us with these students, regardless of what pathway they need to figure out their own selves, so that's important. We also have a brand new group that started up just 6 months ago in Neosho, a Seroptimus group. That group exists here in Joplin, thriving with a very large, are you in Joplin? Yeah, so I know Joplin has a thriving community here with 60 members, plus we're just 16 members and just getting started, but we're in Neosho. And I'd love to have you come talk to our team,
Sure.
but also we need to find ways to channel ourselves through others to help people in our community, so there might be a great way or great partnership where you, alongside with us, might be able to help those women and children in our communities
Absolutely.
deal with that. So tons of opportunity, I'll make sure I connect with you.
Yes.
But thank you for sharing your story, great story.
Thank you.
Hey Abigail, love you. So I know that you have been in several homeschool groups, and of course I run a homeschool group and a part of several. Have you ever thought of doing like a homeschool day, like once a month?
Oh, I
Because
have.
I know that lots of us homeschoolers look for stuff like that, and I really think that would benefit a lot of our kids to get out there, especially since, you know, a lot of people like to try to say, oh, they're not socialized, which they are, but this would definitely help them with more of their team building and maybe even go out to have one of their fun days out on your farm.
Okay.
So, yeah, so a homeschool day, at least once a month or once every other month would be awesome.
Okay, awesome.
Really?
Well, thank you so much.